Patkányomat hadd mutassam be.
Patkányomat mutasd be. És, de nem gáz, hogy izé mutasd.
Ez a patkányom.
De akkor tedd jó közel.
Na, várj, itt van. Itt a patkány. Nagyon éti, Forinnak hívják. Na.
Only in Vermont, nowhere else.
Yeah.
Only in Vermont.
It's not actually marriage either. It's benefits of marriage. They call it civil union.
Tehát szerintem ez végül is egy jó intézkedés, tolerálja azt, hogy mások vagyunk, és ez egy jó lépés afelé, hogy ne váljon teljesen egységessé a társadalom. Na.
There's some people who just think it's like wrong and they don't really have anything to back it up besides it's wrong. After it became legal, like all these people put up like Take Back Vermont signs, like they're these giant posters that just say Take Back Vermont, and it's like, I don't know, it's really ridiculous.
Hát valahogy nem tudom elképzelni. De főleg azért nem, mert hogyha valamelyik ilyen házas pár, ilyen homoszexuális házas pár, például mondjuk gyereket örökbe fogad, akkor az a gyerek így azt látja otthon, hogy ez a normális. Mondjuk főleg egy kisgyerek nagykorában, amikor a felnő, szerintem főleg abból táplálkozik, meg azt szerint él majd, amit otthon látott.
This big discussion on this last year in this workshop I did. Is it right for gays to raise children? And it basically came out to yes.
Biztos, hogy lennének olyan emberek, akik, és nem csak gyerekek, mert mondjuk a gyerekek azok néha még durvábbak tudnak lenni, szóval így, hogy így cikiznék, vagy nem tudom, de biztos, hogy lennének olyan tanárok is, vagy olyan emberek, akik, tehát szerintem biztos, hogy lennének olyan emberek, akik miatt, tehát hogy emiatt szerintem hátrányos helyzetbe kerülnek.
I think there's actually, frankly, my belief is that homosexual parents are more likely to raise a kid better because it's harder for them to get one. They have to really want a kid to have one. You get two heterosexual parents, they could not want a kid. You know, the contraception could fail. They could be sloppy.
Accident.
Yeah, they could just randomly have a kid. There's so many heterosexual parents that should not be parents, that don't even want to be parents, that are terrible parents. And like, I bet you will not find like a lesbian couple or a gay couple that's going to be bad parents that have kids because they want them if they get them, and they're very conscious about, like, you know, because it's such a new privilege, you know, they appreciate having kids and they feel this responsibility so strongly. Like, we're going to prove to a society that believes that we can't raise kids, we're going to prove them wrong. So like, I think like all the lesbian couples that I know, I don't actually know a gay couple that has kids, but they're all great parents.
I know that. I think I know lesbians that would probably be better fathers than I would.
Soha nem értettem, hogy végül is akkor ez így hogy van, hogy ez hogy alakul ki, hogy valaki homoszexuális lesz, hogy ez, tehát, hogy ez így el van döntve, és neki benne van a génjében, vagy pedig ez így, tehát biztos, hogy tehát olyan szempontból sem lenne jó hatással a gyerekre.
You know, I don't really see why it would be different except from other people telling them it's different, you know? Like, if you're a little kid, you don't come into the world thinking my mom and dad have to be a mom and a dad if the whole time, you know, they've been a dad and a dad. It's like, you accept whatever you come into.
Why was racism not
I mean, why are people allowed to be prejudiced against gays? Why are they allowed?
Yeah.
San Franciscóban kurva sok buzi van. Na, nekem mondjuk van egy homoszexuális ismerősöm és egy biszex barátnőm. De most így halál komolyan. Szóval a barátom, egyik legjobb barátom, srác. Így az elején így, mikor megtudtam, így tartottam tőle mindent, de szóval ugyanolyan ember, emberből van ő is basszus, szóval így nem lehet így elkülöníteni, ezt én már így rasszizmusnak veszem, és én rohadtul utálom a rasszisztákat.
Aranyos a burok, túl az üvegen a szépek és gazdagok, koldusok, vagyonok, egymásba harapva, mint a fej és a farok. Szabadság, szerelem, mind a kettő arca ott van a pénzeden. Türelem, nagy a türelem, hogyha mindkettőt mégis szeretem.
I guess I've been raised Christian, and my parents make me go to church like 4 times a year, something like that. There's a church that's the Christian community. It's like a Waldorf-based, like Rudolf Steiner started it, and my parents believe in it, and I got confirmed in it, which means like, I don't know, they made me a member of it, something like that. I don't know, something that happens when you're like 13.
Amikor már így döntésképes voltam valamilyen szinten, apukám katolikus, az anyukám pedig evangélikus. Elvittek egy katolikus és elvittek egy evangélikus templomba is. De először is, hogy akarok-e, mondtam, hogy akarok, és elvittek ebbe és abba, és azt mondtam, hogy evangélikus. Mert a katolikusan nekem az túlzott, szóval ez a gics, ez a túlzásba viszik a vallást, szóval nem az, hogy fanatista, csak olyan nem szimpatikus ez a. Szóval ez a éjjel-nappal gyónás, és akkor 30 mi atyánk. Szóval szerintem nem ezen dőlnek el a dolgok, hogy ő most elmond 30 mi atyánkat, vagy nem mond el. Egy pap nem döntheti el, hogy mi a te bűnöd, azt te magadba elrendezed.
Érdekes, elég nagy marhaságnak tartom így a vallást magát, meg ez az egész. Ez jól bejött még úgy régebben, amikor a papok mindenki úgy megtolasodtak, meg vitték az emberek pénzét, de szerintem már ez egy kicsit lejár, mert senki nem hisz benne, hogy ott fönn az égben valaki majd vigyáz ránk, meg minden. Szóval elég érőhelyes, hogy tele van ellentmondással az egész Biblia is, én olvasgattam egy kicsit, meg minden.
Engem érdekel ez, szóval ez is szerintem a kultúra része, a vallás. De hogyha már olyan mértékig elfolyul a dolog, hogy az egyház felé irányul minden, az így nagyon, nagyon nem korrekt.
I don't know if I believe in God. Like, I'm not gonna say I don't, because right now I really don't know. I guess I kind of do believe in some sort of higher power, because, like, I guess I believe that there has to be a purpose greater than, like, living every day and, like, then you, I don't know, you grow up and you have a job and then you have a life and then you die and then it's over. I don't know. I kind of feel like there has to be something else.
I believe strongly that there's more than we can see. There's more than the physical. There's something out there. And maybe, yeah, we can call it God or whatever, but it's definitely, it's something that's all powerful, or at least more powerful than we are, and I just can't buy it. The whole scientific, I don't see how matter can come out of nothing, how the world, how the physical can, I mean, because at one point there must have been nothing for there to be something now. I guess I'm Christian, but I'm not totally Christian, because I think that maybe Christ was also that being, maybe was in the Buddha, or in all of those religions seem just as relative. I don't know. Actually, Buddhism is very cool.
A másik meg mondom, ez a Isten dolog, hogy ebben nem nagyon hiszek, hogy lebeg a felhők fölött, és akkor valami, szerintem ez csak ilyen kitaláció, az emberek kitalálták, hogy legyen mibe hinni, és hogy ne legyenek teljesen elveszve, hogyha itt olyan gyújtják fel a falujukat, akkor legyen mit mondani. Ne káromkodjanak, hanem inkább imádkozzanak, mert az milyen jó hangzik.
And I've been raised in a Protestant household, and my mom's Episcopalian. But and she makes me go to church and all that, but I don't really get that same feeling she seems to out of church. I don't really know what I believe, and so I tell everyone who asks me honestly that I consider myself an agnostic.
I just try not to believe anything totally, because most of the things I end up finding are different, or I change my mind, so I don't know, I guess my beliefs are just whatever seems most valid or most true to me. Kind of open right now, I guess.
I think I've tried to avoid a bit like concrete beliefs. Like I believe that like when you die you go to heaven or you go to hell, because I think a lot of so much of the world is sort of incomprehensible and I don't understand it. I think pretending to understand it is can be harmful. So I guess I'd say I believe that, I mean, just everything, everything natural and alive and just in the universe is, that's really all I could say. It's like something that you can say that I believe. So a lot of it's not really expressible with language.
Hát, nem, mindenféle ilyen, nem csak vallásban, hanem ilyen hitben van egy kis hiba. Mert egyik sem teljesen tökéletes. Hogyha most azt mondanánk, hogy így a nihilizmus az egy jobb, az áll még a legközelebb talán, de az sem teljesen jó, hogy úgy mindent nem lehet letagadni, tehát bizonyos dolgoknak azért van értelmük.
And actually I think that teenagers now are, it seems like all teenagers are atheists now.
Én teljes mértékben ateista vagyok. Én magamban hiszek így, szóval én fogom elérni a céljamat, és nekem senki nem kell, hogy segítsen. Én magamtól akarom megteremteni azt a környezetet, mondjuk úgy, szóval a családomat, az egész életemet én akarom megterezni. És nekem nem kell, szóval az jó, hogyha a barátok itt támogatnak, meg a szüleid, de semmilyen természet fölötti valami nem fog segíteni nekem.
I think adults, it's a little hard to classify like what an adult actually is. I think, I guess when I'm at a point where I can live independently of, anyone else, and, well, I mean, you can't really do that, but when I'm able to, support myself and emotionally and physically. So, I mean, you become more adult slowly, and the culture allows you certain things. I think 18 is pretty good for a voting age. And when you're 21, then you can go into all the restaurants, go into the bar. They won't kick you out.
Hogy én nagykorú vagyok, hát mit tudom én, majd hogyha először megboraklálkozok, vagy valami, de én még nem szeretném magamat nagykorúnak érezni, mert akkor nyakamba szakadna egy olyan csomó olyan felelősség, amit még nem nagyon akarok úgy elvállalni.
You have to be kind of independent to be an adult, I guess, and I feel that I am.
Persze mindenki szeretne önállóan dönteni, csak így néha meg rádöbbensz, hogy mégis mennyire nem vagy önálló.
An adult, to me at least, is just someone who's found a proper place of niche or something like that in the world, and they're willing to accept all sorts of responsibility, and they rarely alter just who they are between just a certain time period.
Ezt nem tudhatom előre, hogy mitől fogom magamat felnőttnek érezni, de hogyha mondjuk már egyedül élek, vagy családom van, akkor valószínűleg felnőttnek fogom azért érezni.
Yeah, I think really the thing that would decide is having kids or not.
Yeah, I mean, I definitely want a family, but I don't know if that really means like having a husband and kids and all that. I mean, I want I guess more of like a community, or you know, like family that aren't necessarily related to me, because it's not so much a commitment, I guess. It's a choice that people would make.
There's a difference really, like living with a person in like a relationship and raising a family that way, or just having some sort of like unit where just you and a bunch of friends live together or something like that. If I had the choice of two, I'd rather have just a bunch of friends living together. Some of them might be married. I wouldn't want to get married.
What the hell? 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 What the
I can sing songs for me.
Yeah, Henry and I write a lot of our own songs. I don't know, a lot of them are really stupid or naive or whatever, but in their own way, they oftentimes reflect just who me and Henry both are. We don't try to get a message across, we just try to say, this is what we do under these circumstances, how about you?
Yeah, see, the thing is that I don't really want to be one of those struggling singer-songwriter types, sensitive and annoying, which I may already be, but I don't think I'm actually all that sensitive, but I'm annoying.
Meg van egy nagyon kedvenc könyvem, Radics Béláról, tudod, én nem ismered, nem sokan ismerik Magyarországon. Egy ilyen nagyon régi magyar gitáros, és ami 30 évet élt, de hát akkor ő nagyon nagy sztárnak számított, szóval hogyha ő külföldre kikerül, akkor ő ott tarolt volna. És róla ő már ugye meghalt, és róla nyilatkoznak a barátai, meg a volt barátnője, meg ilyesmik, meg a volt felesége.
I like to read biographies on interesting people. I like to read poetry and
Például az Agatha Christie-ket azokat szeretem. Agatha Christie sorozatot. Meg tudod, csináltak egy filmet, az Orbát. Az Orba, a görög.
Igen.
Én azt még nem láttam, én csak elolvastam, és az nagyon tetszett. Úgy maga az életfelfogás ennek a görögnek. Nagyon jó volt. Meg amit olvastam még, mostanában a Dalos Sándornak az Aranyecset meg a Napszerelmese. Az a Munkácsi Mihály életében. Az is nagyon jó volt.
I read a lot of junk books. See that book on my desk, Fearless? It's a series, and there's 25 of them, and that's the 25th.
Szeretem a rejtőjen regényeket.
A kedvenc könyvem az a Gyűrűk ura. Az így körülbelül olyan 10 éves koromban úgy a kezembe nyomták a szüleim, na kisfiam, ezt olvasd el, és akkor elkezdtem olvasgatni, és hát valami fantasztikus történet.
Hát a kedvencem az Aphegyező.
I like to go in over my head. I like to read things that I don't understand because it makes me feel important. Basically, I think I also said that in there. When I see something, I want to try to beat it, which isn't good. Like, I read this book, The Chosen, and in it, there's this boy, Danny, or I think that's his name, and he reads Freud. And one of the other characters in the book says, "Wow, Danny, you're reading Freud and you're 18." And I said, "I'm only 13 and I'm gonna read Freud." But I didn't understand all of it. Actually, it's right here. On Dreams. I understood a bit of it, and sometimes I still pick it up and read it. It puts me to sleep.
Vámpírok bája. Az egy Polanski film.
Akkor
És
azt
aminek
nem
az a vége,
igen.
hogy megfertőzi a csajt is.
Hogy mennek ott a lovaskocsin, nem?
Igen,
Akkor
Erdélyben,
azt
és
látom.
akkor az a vége, hogy kiviszi a vámpírt Erdélyből. És hogy a rosszat, a gonoszat magával viszi. Előtte megharapta, és ott hát azért viszik el, hogy megmentsék a csaj, de aztán nem sikerül, és megharapja azt a fiatal fiút is.
Kis utazás című filmet néztük meg még a sulival. Azt szerintem nagyon jó ötlet volt az osztályfőnöktől, mert hát mikor játszódik a Szovjetunió vagy mi. És akkor mennek ki ilyen NDK táborba, és nem az van, hogy szóval egyik jelenet, így ami legjobban tetszik az egészben, hogy kártyáznak egy asztalnál, szép fehér faasztal ülnek, srácok, és így nagyon jól érzik magukat, isznak, minden, röhögcsélnek, minden, és így távolodik a kamera. És egyszer csak így azt látod, hogy egy irtózatosan nagy pusztaság közepén vannak, és ilyen üres az egész.
Mondjuk a Amelie csodálatos életét, mondjuk azt felét átaludtam, mert én ezt a Szigeten láttam, 1:30-kor kezdődött, ott volt egy ilyen mozi, és akkor csak az elejét meg a végét láttam, de haláli volt, szóval annyira jól meg volt csinálva, a főszereplőnő is nagyon jó volt, és bár átadtam a felét, de azóta meg akarom nézni még egyszer, de már sehol nem adják.
Én általában azokat, amikben a Robert De Niro játszik, vagy az Al Pacino, nagyon jó kis színészek. Az egyik kedvenc filmem így a Szemtől szemben, ami manapság játszódik, és az egy nagyon eltalált film szerintem. Abban az Al Pacino meg a Robert De Niro együtt játszik, úgyhogy ez egy extra jó film.
No, I like watching cartoons. Just because
Felix.
yeah, just because you know they're not supposed to be anything. They don't have any like hidden meanings or like something that you know, it's not like you can aspire to be a cartoon character. They're just funny.
No, I think it's sort of deceptive. Like it seems to be this just sort of action movie with like Brad Pitt and all that, but it's just it's there's so much to think about. And I've discussed that movie with people for like hours, and it works artistically. I mean, it's a well done movie. It's good acting, and it has a lot to say about society without being preachy, because it's not like, okay, this is how a good society would look, because it's about this guy who's going nuts, and so that's obviously not the ideal way to be, but it implies a lot of questions.
Mikor már ugyanaz történik minden akciófilmben, lehet tudni az elején, hogy ez a gonosz, ez a tolószékes csávó, ezt széttörték a gerincét, akkor tudja, hogy az öccse fogja megvédeni a becsületét, de a nőjét megerőszakolják, de azért is bosszút áll, és akkor a végén meghal a legjobb haverja, szóval erről szól mindig. Szóval ugyanaz a forgatókönyv, ugyanazok a szereplők, és ilyen rendezte a pirotechnikus, szóval robbanás általán.
I was just thinking about this on the questionnaire, like, McDonald's hamburgers taste really good, but it's because they have all these artificial chemicals in them, and they're horrible for you, and it's like, okay, it tastes good now, but then it doesn't make you feel particularly satisfied. And it's the same thing with like crappy movies. It's like, it's a cheap thrill. It's like, whoa, that was cool, the car blows up. Then you walk out like, that was boring, with a headache. So it makes you feel kind of crappy afterward. Whereas good movies, you're like, oh, that was good. Makes you feel alive instead of dead.
Például Gettóban játszik, roncsfilm például, láttad? Na, az egy olyan film, hogy 7.-8. kerület, undorító, letört, szakadt, 8. kerület, és ez így sokkal jobban fel lehet fogni mindent. Itt semmi nincs így a színfalak mögött, meg nem ilyen rózsaszín minden, hanem teljes mértékben visszaadja azt, ami van. Sokkal őszintébb.
Szerintem Magyarországon rengeteg ilyen film van, csak mozikban nem mutatják be őket. Tehát néha ilyen filmmúzeum vagy ilyen csatornákon lehet ezeket látni.
Tehát lásd filmmúzeum, így megnéztem, nem tudom, minap a Falfúró című filmet, és így iszonyat.
Yeah, when I was in Germany for 2 months, I saw a lot of movies over there, and most of the German ones were they were just trying to be, turn that off! Alright, they were just trying to be like American movies. Most of them were just like, they were these dumb comedies, they were just like, sort of raunchy, stupid comedies that were just trying to be like American Pie and movies like that, which are pretty lame.
American Pie just you get the idea whoever wrote it maybe had sort of those troubles in high school or just something, and so it seemed the world seemed like everyone was having sex but him or something like that. And
például az amerikai Peter, szóval úgy állítják be az amerikai ifjúságot, mint ilyen síkhülyék, akik csak azzal törődnek, hogy a szalagaton elveszik a szüzességet, szóval szerintem nem erről van szó ott igazából. Lehet, hogy erről van szó, akkor meg elég szomorú helyzet, de szóval máshogy állítják be a dolgot, mint ahogy vannak.
Well, in a lot of films they portray them as like really like shallow and stupid, and a lot of the teen movies, like the girls are all like, oh my god, he needs to do makeup, and there are a lot of people like that. Like I know a lot of people like that, but I think it's hard to generalize a whole country because there's so many different people.
I don't think so at all. I mean,
And-
even kids I know who don't go to Waldorf schools, I've never met anyone who's like a kid in a movie.
Magyarországon ilyen teljesen azt mondják, hogy jó, amerikai filmek a világnak a megrontó, meg hogy mindig vannak ilyenek, hogy mit tudom, Bruce Willis megmenti a Földet 162-szerre, de szerintem ez ilyen nem azt mondom, hogy irigykedés, de valami hasonló, mert hogy akármelyik másik országot megnézed, senki nem tud olyan filmeket csinálni, mint az amerikaiak. Tehát ők ezt nagyon jól csinálják.
Mindenkiben ez ragad meg, hogy Amerika jó. Ami ezt de lehet, hogy igaz, de nem ráerőltetik magukat a világra, vagy nem tudom.
I think that is a really bizarre situation. I don't know if I can't even tell if it's like the movies come from the people or if the people want to be the movies and they like turn it into them.
Yeah, I think it's a big part of American culture. Like everybody sees the new movies, and everybody's seen like so many movies, and I think there's a lot of like good ones, but like, some of them portray the American life. I guess.
I left behind a room full of broken bottles, and I left behind a fluorescent underworld, so I went back with my guys and told the little boys and girls to turn around. Turn around, 'cause
it's a collection of cultures, and so accepting many different cultures is very important just to get by in this type of society. It's really hard to be closed-minded just because overall everywhere you look is just another culture that you have to accept or have to hate, and it takes a lot of effort to actually hate something.
It kind of seems like a joke to me. It's supposed to be like, there's this whole ideal of like what America is supposed to be and like what our founding fathers, like the whole idea behind it, and it's just like, this complete mockery of what it's supposed to be. It's like, I don't know, I guess I'm just at a point in my life where I can't like relate to my country. Like, I can't, it's just completely like everything that I don't want. Like, it's, you know, like when I think of America, I think like shopping malls and like big screen TVs and just everything like that. I don't think, you know, the land of the free. I don't know. It makes me sad.
Well, I think what I said was something about, like, the values that the United States is based on, the ideals. I don't know if they were ever really realized, or, you know, if they ever came true in the United States at any point, but they're very valuable ideas, and I think that it would be, well, I don't know, I'm sort of going off on a tangent, but important to try and get back to those ideas. And that's why people, I think that's why people have protests and...
I mean, I think if something were to be different in, or the things that I want to be different in my life, I think that probably the country would have to be different, or because I'm affected by, you know, I can't escape the country, or, I mean, I could, you know, go somewhere else, but then I'd probably be facing the same problems.
Well, I don't feel myself to be very much involved in mainstream American culture. But there's just a general thing that Americans have that and this doesn't mean like every American is like this, but a general attitude that's kind of accepted, that's sort of arrogant and like, I deserve everything, and it's sort of a very shallow outlook on things. Mm-hmm. I'm generalizing hugely. I'm thinking of, you know, Hollywood movies and advertisements and stuff that certainly don't represent everyone, but just this attitude of, you know, it's a very childish or adolescent, in the worst sense of the word, kind of attitude of just I'm not sure. I'm trying to think where it comes from, and I can only figure it's just because our whole culture is get what you want and get it now, and that's good. That's acceptable, is to like want something and get it now. And
being in Europe, people over there tend to think that, at least in Germany where I was, that Americans basically don't have their own culture, and so they go around destroying other people's. And I think that's a little harsh. I mean, it's not quite that bad, but, you know, certainly it's true to a certain extent. You know, there's a lot of junk that comes out of America culturally, like Hollywood movies. I think the vast majority of them are stupid and just bad. They're predictable and just violent and just horrible. And McDonald's and all that sort of thing. It's this very, like, cheap thrills idea. That's, you know, make money, and it's just very little caring for quality. It's just quantity.
Well, America doesn't really have that much of a culture. Like, it's, some countries are like thousands and thousands of years old, and we're like, I don't know, a couple hundred, a few hundred, a little bit more than that, but you know. And I don't, well, that doesn't necessarily mean we don't have a heritage, but there's nothing that I'm really like, wow, I'm really proud of that.
There's great poetry in America. There's great music. I think, like, I mean, there's the American music that gets exported, like Britney Spears tends to be crap, but there's a lot of good music in America. We have some, folk tradition. I think that's really valuable, and those sorts of cultures should be preserved.
American history would be, like, Native Americans, like, you know, that goes back, but then it's just like, America just started just, I don't know, like really violently and really kind of like it was supposed to be like this beautiful thing, and like all these people who just wanted freedom and like to be happy, and they got that by, you know, stealing somebody else's land and making other people unhappy and oppressing other people. And
It's been going on for a long time. I was reading this book by Wendell Berry that just had this very interesting thesis about how like Western culture has been one of basically like conquering other people, and like whether it was Columbus coming to America and killing all the Indians and just taking their land and, you know, trying to go after the gold and stuff, and like having this whole mythology around it of like, yeah, this is glory, we're conquering for our king or our god or whatever it is. It's the main problem with society right now. I mean, with Iraq, it's like, yeah, let's go in there and get the oil. It's sort of wanton disconcern for, you know, it's not a word, but unconcern for human life or, you know, nature or anything really. And it's basically it's based on unreality. It's based on money, which is not even something real.
And moving ahead at this speed that's just kind of unreasonable. Just the whole culture is kind of too speedy.
I think that really like patriotism and just being this very like, this is our country, this strong identification with your own country is really, it's a bit out of date, and I don't think that it's a very good thing in the world right now, because I mean the economy and like culture is becoming global, and that's going to happen no matter what. And what our responsibility is now is not really to identify with our country and be like, yeah, we're better than everyone else and we can assert our rights and stuff.
Oh, I don't like nationalism. Like, I'm definitely not patriotic.
Mm-hmm.
Or, you know, feeling particularly strong feelings like my country's the best.
I don't think that like any of us are very proud of our country, and I think that like I don't really know anybody who's like, wow. Well, actually, I do know people, but I really don't like those people.
I think that people need to start letting go of like nationalism and thinking about just more about humanity and about the planet as a whole. And you know, it's like nationalism has just caused so many wars that it seems that if we got rid of it, we wouldn't miss it. And you know, I mean, what's a country? It's abstract. It's not really anything real. And I mean, that doesn't mean that you lose like your cultural heritage. I mean, there is, I think, I mean, America is a melting pot of people, obviously. So it's got less of its own culture than, say, I mean, Hungary, I imagine, would have much more of its own like heritage that you can be proud of and you know, keep as your own, which is a good thing. You know, so it's diversity.
Olyan dolgokra vagyok büszke, amiket mondjuk ezek a magyar kultúra képviselői tettek. Nem a hazáért, hanem azért, hogy nem is azért, hogy érvényesülni tudjunk, hanem hogy legyünk valakik. Szóval ne csak egy nemzet legyünk Európa közepén, hanem hogy tudjanak is rólunk.
Magában a népzene meg a néptánc, ugye ez szerves része a magyar kultúrának. Hát meg ez a legősibb, ami nekünk egyáltalán van. És hát persze szeretem, és azért ugye nekem fontos.
Hát a népi hagyományok, amik szintén kezdenek úgy kikapni. De szerintem fontos lenne megtartani.
Mindegy, nem tartom érdekesnek azt, hogy ilyen helyen újabb, meg népviselet, meg minden ilyen vackot teljesen szánalmas, gyenge.
Magyarországnak én mondjuk az irodalom, amit én nagyon fontosnak tartok, és szerintem köztudott, hogy Magyarországnak olyan írói, költői, meg hát még újságírója is voltak, akik kimentek Párizsba, és egész Európát körbejárták, és világszerte ismertek voltak. Szóval ez azért valamit jelent, ugyanis Magyarország nem nagy ország, és az, hogy így mondjuk Franciaországban ismerik mit tudom én, Adi Endrét, vagy várjunk, kit ismernek még ott? Valakit még igen. Ennyit a kultúrát.
I don't know where I will turn my head and go where I can go.
That someday we caterpillars will see a brighter day. Caterpillar sits by the window. He doesn't know that his days are numbered, 'cause the cruel world has manipulated him so.